So, as it would turn out, video game fans are pretty upset with the government in Hong Kong. A professional Hearthstone player even had his prize money revoked and his participation in future tournament events barred. I do think that has been since reversed, but I mean, it is what it is. Dylan, you're much more knowledgeable than I am on the topic. Can you give us a brief summary of what's been going on in Hong Kong?
Thank you that you have finally recognized my intellectual superiority. Thank you. It's finally of note. But, yeah. Um, so besides video game people being really upset, the gamers being really upset about Hong Kong, what basically happened was there was an extradition bill in Hong Kong, and it was a straw that broke the camel's back. It was not. If this was like the one thing, then the reaction that was given wouldn't have not happened. It was it. So the extradition bill was put through. The idea that people could be with criminal charges be brought back to mainland China. It was not good for the people on the ground. They didn't like it, and so they started protesting. And the government, of course, did not want to compromise. They thought they could stamp this out like the umbrella protests. The difference was that people learned a lot in those years.
The difference was gamers got involved and took to action.
Look, all I'm saying is if people who played Pong was in Hong Kong last time, they would have won this, man. Wait, it was 2012. What good games were out in 2012?
None. No good games have come out since like Banjo-Kazooie. I'll say it. Anyway, go on.
Banjo-Kazooie is the only good video game. That's the woke
True.
pick. But when it comes to they've learned how to deal with tear gas. They've learned how to deal with corralling. They've developed a system with masks. They developed a system with trains and are not using key cards and wrapping their key cards in tinfoil so they can't be tracked, and only using cash to pay back and forth. They now use Telegram to communicate with everybody and like methods of communication where they can't be tracked. They've developed a really smart and intelligent system with the protest, and by using the system, the Hong Kong police have been really unable to put out the protests as they've developed and gotten more and more tenuous between the police and the local community. And another thing that's important is that the local Hong Kongers, like, continually to this day, still really in the majority support the Hong Kong protests against the government. And so after a while, the protests no longer just became about oh boy, now they're all angry about Banjo-Kazooie. Okay, so it was no longer just about the extradition bill. It became about police abuse. It became about universal suffrage and something developed called the Five Demands. Really, the first one, of course, was the withdrawal of the extradition bill, formally, not just suspension because they suspended it after a while. Carrie Lam like stepping down, an investigation of police abuse, reclassifying the protests from riots just to protest, because if you get caught and charged with rioting, the consequences when it comes to prison time is a lot more severe, and universal suffrage. Now, when it comes to universal suffrage, in Article 45 of the Basic Law, which is Hong Kong's constitution, yeah, I got my citations, boys. It basically says that the ultimate goal is universal suffrage, but they've never really like come to a conclusion on that, and there's like confusion about an electoral college type system. I mean, it's not really called the electoral college, but that's the only like system I can like relate it to Americans. But it's like the idea of like a nominating body, right? Of like who gets to be chief executive. Only 50% of the people who are in Hong Kong's legislature are like voted for, and the rest are kind of chosen from like a nominating body. The same goes for the like chief executive. And so that's where the idea of universal suffrage comes into play.
Okay.
So the five demands really have to do with stopping the police abuse, checking police abuse in its place, releasing the protesters, reclassifying riots, the withdrawal of the bill, and universal suffrage. And they all also want Carrie Lam to step down. And I can tell you from leaked audio recordings that actually, let's see if I can get it to you. Would you actually be able to play it if I got it to you?
Yeah, sure.
Carrie Lam leaked audio. This is hilarious because in this audio, she's basically like, I want to step down. Please let me step down. Why won't the government let me step down? Because the party doesn't want her to step down, because it would be seen as caving into the Hong Kong protesters. So here's actually this is no, that's Zagonian. But basically, eventually, they're like, okay, fine, we suspend the bill. Okay, fine, we withdraw the bill. Okay, now we withdraw it formally. But if they would have done that at the beginning, they may have been able to stop this. But it's a little too late for that. It kind of developed protests are no longer just about
you
that.
cut out a little bit on that.
The protests no longer are just about the extradition bill. It's now about all those other things, the 5 demands. The catchphrase on the ground is 5 demands, not one less. And so the government's in a sticky situation where this isn't Tiananmen Square. They can't just try to close out from the world, and they can't just try to suffer through it, put them down, because everyone on the ground is a reporter if you got a phone, right? So if there's an abuse on the ground by a cop, people see it. When that cop shot that schoolboy in the chest, point blank range, the world saw it and the world cringed. So they're at a state where they can't really do a Tiananmen Square, even though they're threatening to send in the police, the army. And in this leaked audio, it says that, well, the CCP is just going to basically wait it out. We're just going to wait and see what happens. Carrie Lam, you're not allowed to step down. We're not allowing you. I know you want to step down, but we're not going to allow you to step down. So they're going to play more of the long game.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what's going on. They're trying to play the long game. Now there is provisions within the basic law that if the police lose control, then then the army can step in. And I've seen people from believe his name's like Bad Panda or something on on YouTube. Do you know who I'm talking about? He's a really lefty person talking about Hong Kong for a little bit.
Bad Empanada?
Yes.
I've heard the name. I haven't seen much of their content.
He had a lot of criticisms for them, but one of them, which I thought was a little weird, was that they haven't really held on to territory like a lot of other places did, and that's why they're not effective. The difference is if they were to hold on to territory, I'm pretty sure at that point the party would basically send the military in.
Mm-hmm.
Because the military is an extension of the party. It's actually not an extension of the Chinese state. And then when the army got there, they just cracked down, and then Tiananmen Square Part 2. So I think they're trying to find this balance of being right on the line where they can't really send in the army and they don't have the right to send in the army. So I feel like that criticism is kind of unfounded. There's another criticism saying that, hey, America supports these. It serves their interests for Hong Kong to be free and have the right to vote and not as attached to the central party. And yes, it does. That doesn't mean we shouldn't support them in their protests. I mean, it probably would be against American imperial interest if Florida all of a sudden just sunk into the ocean. It doesn't mean we should be for Florida just sinking into the ocean. We need to be we need to kind of work in the area we're in right now in supporting democracy wherever we can, if the people want it, and supporting people against abusive police force and surveillance states. And this is an example of where we need to support them.
Mm-hmm. So I did send you a link on Twitter. Is that the audio? I can't check it because it'll play.
Okay, 1 second.
It's the Twitter link.
I don't want to spend your time or waste your time for you to ask me what went wrong and why went wrong. But for a chief executive to have caused this huge havoc to Hong Kong is unforgivable. It's just unforgivable. If I have a choice, the first thing is to quit. Having made a deep apology is to step down. So I make a plea to you for your forgiveness.
That's of note. What they're saying, that they have no plan to deploy the army in Hong Kong, is something we should note.
Okay.
They would go into detail later in all of this recordings that they don't want to deploy the army. They want to play the long game. They want to just kind of wait it out. They think that eventually the people will stop supporting the protests because they won't be able to get to work and all that. But that hasn't really shifted. And now that there's going into It's been more than half of a year now, and the protests are still going on, and the people still have support. I don't know if support's really going to waver anytime soon. So if they want to play a long game, they got to start thinking like maybe in the context of years, not in the context of months.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if the Central Party is going to be able to do that or make that choice. So, like I said, and like she said, she wants to resign. She believes a lot of this is on her. She's putting a lot of the blame on herself. This has been a complete fumble by the party. They could have easily solved this if just withdraw the bill once they had all this opposition immediately. But it just comes from a deep amount of bureaucracy and incompetence that the Central Party just doesn't know how to deal with any criticism, because they're so used to just subduing any criticism at home by locking people up, putting them on national TV, making them apologize, and then going about the day. They can't do that in Hong Kong, and so they don't really know how to respond to the situation with the whole world watching, because they know the consequences they received from the international community after Tiananmen. They're scared of another Tiananmen, and protesters on the ground are scared of another Tiananmen. So they're making it so it would be a complete PR disaster if they were to do so. So I mean, this audio right here really is like the crux, a really good gem that I found of just showing that she is just in complete disarray. She doesn't want to be in the situation. She blames a lot of this on herself, and the only reason she is still there as executive is because the party wants her to stay there.
All right, do you want to listen to more of it? Or have you gone...
You're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to listen to more of it, or have you gone through
Well, I went basically through
of
all of it. That's all we really need to like go through. I mean, this situation is just, it just shows that there's a document that was released a while ago, leaked out. I think it was like document number 9. And in document number 9, it's not completely confirmed, but it's widely accepted that it highlights Xi Jinping, who is of course the leader of China.
Mm-hmm.
What he sees as the biggest threats to the Chinese state and to socialism in China, right? And if you pull up document number 9 on Wikipedia or something like that, what you find is that the biggest threats is constitutional democracy, universal values, dismantling the ruling party, neoliberalism, journalism, historical nihilism, therefore like talking about like Tiananmen, and reforming and opening the nature of socialism with Chinese characteristics. So almost every single thing he says is a threat is what Hong Kong exists as currently, to an extent, or what the protesters want. So Hong Kong, in Xi Jinping's eyes, is an existential threat to China, or at least to the ruling party in China. Therefore, they cannot afford to lose this. So it's not so. This is a really, really this is a struggle, literally, of these protesters on the street throwing tear gas back at cops against the entirety of the Chinese state. It isn't just like the Hong Kong police, because the Chinese state can't really afford to lose this, because they see it as like kind of everything on the line, even though it isn't isn't really that situation. If they were to lose this fight, it wouldn't mean that bad of a situation for the ruling party. It would just mean there'd be more democracy in Hong Kong. But to Xi Jinping, and in his eyes, this is an existential threat. And that document number 9 proves it. Even though the foundation of Hong Kong, the basic law in Article 45, talks about universal suffrage, that doesn't matter. Document number 9 proves that the party cannot afford Hong Kong to ever be free.
This is why we stand in solidarity with all of the protesters.
Yeah, we need to stand in solidarity, but we also need to be realists that I don't think the protesters can win on their own. I think since he thinks it's an existential threat.
Yeah, it seems like they would do as much as possible to maintain their hold on Hong Kong.
There's going to have to be some external pressure. They're going to need to make, the protesters are going to need to make it a PR disaster, and then nations like America and the West and really the rest of the world need to put pressure on them to fulfill Article 45 of the basic law, allow for independent inquiry into the police abuse, and to fulfill the 5 demands, as was intended by the transfer, the original transfer from Hong Kong from the British to China. Now, I don't like to go by colonialist rules and regulations, right? If you look at my business cards that I hand out every day, it literally says anti-colonialist as one of the first, like it's with a byline of under my name. But this is something that was made that was a decent document that like showed like how we should go forward, but the party never had intentions to follow by it. So they didn't even want to fulfill like the long period until they could even talk about changing, like absorbing them into it. They just wanted to slowly whittle away their rights. But I think they broke the camel's back, and now they don't really know what to do. And this is the situation we find ourselves in.
Very rough, and it seems to be ripples around the world as well, in terms of Chile, in terms of even protests in the West.
What angers me, and I made a post, when the Iraqi government lodged tear gas canisters into the skulls of protesters.
Yeah, I saw a video of that, yeah.
When I posted that, they used mortars to fire tear gas canisters into the crowd, and it got lodged into the skulls of protesters, and you could see the gas coming out of their head. It was like something out of a horror movie. I look at that, and then I look online, and I see people like standing with Hong Kong. There's no I stand with Haiti. There's no I stand with Lebanon. There's no I stand with Chile. I mean, somewhat Chile, but that's more like the Twitter sphere and like the internationalist types. There's no like I stand with Iraq. It's really just I stand with Hong Kong. And the reason why is because the media loves to eat up this type of Hong Kong protester stuff. The liberal, Western, democratic Hong Kong people saved by the British and given Western values. And then, what do they do with their Western values? They want democracy, and they're fighting against evil communist Chinese. Ignore neoliberalism being thrown out the window in Chile. Ignore corruption being thrown away in Lebanon. Ignore the protests in Haiti. Ignore the protests against the ruling party in Iraq and against Iranian influence. What we need to talk about is the dope Hong Kong protesters, which we should be talking about, but we need to give equal attention to the rest of these struggles around the world.
All right. Any final thoughts on the Hong Kong topic before we move on to the conclusions?
The use of the Pepe symbol in Hong Kong has made me very conflicted about its symbolism going forward.
I'm totally fine with the left and other types that aren't literal Nazis reclaiming the symbol. I mean, I've been a piece of that fight as well, as much of a fight as it possibly could be.
I mean, I can say there's some dope plushies in Hong Kong with like Pepe with the eye like covered up because like one protester's eye was destroyed by like a rubber bullet from the Chinese police. There's like Pikachu, Pepe's everywhere. They had like this where they all held hands in like a long line that like I forgot what they were supposed to represent, but then they had Pepe's in another line holding hands. It was they have so many. There's like an abundance. I think the Pepe market in Hong Kong is going to crash eventually. I think they've oversaturated the market.
This final segment, I'm calling it real normie stuff. If I wasn't trying to be more professional, perhaps if I had a different guest on, there would be a different name for that, but that's what we're doing. So real quick, I'm just going to ask you questions, answer them to the best of your ability, in a relatively fast pace. Real normie stuff. Are you ready?
I did not kill Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay, well, it looks like we can just shut the stream down. All right, I'm just kidding. All right, so what is the last thing you do or think of before you go to bed?
My girlfriend.
Okay, hot or cold?
She's hot.
I meant, okay, that's a good answer. I just meant in general, but okay. What's the worst job you've ever had?
I really hated being a camp counselor, but I wasn't even a camp counselor. I was a camp counselor's intern, So like kids could hit me, but I couldn't do anything.
What? Okay. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Um. Ooh. I'd love to like be able to read people's minds, but then I feel like it would kill me in the end because I would like just judge myself constantly. Because then I would like get all the insults in people's heads about myself, and then I'd cry.
Okay. Sorry. What is one of your favorite shows? TV, Netflix, anime, anything like that?
Oof. Okay. I love Samurai Jack.
Solid.
I love what's it called? Haji no Ippo, which is a boxing anime. I watch tons of boxing. It's my favorite sport.
Okay.
I box in the Golden Gloves. Besides that, I just watch mostly documentaries, really.
Okay. Favorite cereal of all time?
Favorite cereal?
Yeah.
Cocoa Pebbles.
All right, and last one, weekends or weekdays?
Weekends or weekdays? Actually, weekdays. Weekends is when I need to turn in all my like homework, and I hate it.
Okay. All right, so this will be fill in the blank, an extension of real normie stuff. So I will start a sentence, you will fill in the blank, finish it. Does that sound good?
Oh, this is setting me up for disaster, but go ahead.
Yes. So I never leave the house without...
contact cards.
Okay. Before I retire, I want to...
End imperialism.
Okay. I look for blank in a partner.
Revolutionary characteristics.
Every day I wake up.
Harry.
All right.
I have a lot of hair.
If I could only be known for one thing, I'd want it to be...
compassion.
If I wasn't a blank, I'd be a...
Wait, that's two?
It's a two-parter. If I wasn't a blank, I would be a blank.
If it was not...
So if you're not a foreign policy advisor, if you were not...
I got it. If I was not a Chad, I'd be a femboy.
Okay. So my name is Dylan Burns, and I'm...
coming for you.
All right, Dylan. It was a pleasure to have you on the stream. I hope everybody enjoyed. Last shout-outs. It is Dylan Burns, DYLAN BURNS 1776 on Twitter. Trying to get to...
I am 1 away. I am 1 follower away.
Quite literally 1 follower away. Follow that. Figure people on YouTube will help you out if you don't get there by that point. But yeah, it's been a blast. Any final shout-outs before you go?
Again, I need to shout out Mckayla Wilkes. I had a wonderful time. You've all been wonderful. The support I've gotten from the online lefty sphere has been wonderful. It's legitimately my career, and helped me. And because of that, I recently, I don't know a lot of people know this, I spoke at the University of Maryland on Rojava, at the University of Maryland, one of the biggest colleges in the country. And that was an amazing experience trying to educating these people on the long, complex history of the Kurdish people and of the current situation they face. So you guys have legitimately helped me out, and I'm so thankful for your support. I'm thankful for Conure for giving me this platform, and I can't wait to continue to go on some more streams, do this, and maybe in the future, maybe I'll start a Twitch channel, and then I can harass all of you every day.
True. Also, I have just been alerted that you hit 1,000. You're at 1,002 right now. Maybe 1,003.
Hey, I gotta watch JoJo now?
1,003.
Oh boy.
All right.
Oh boy.
So here's the tea on JoJo, okay? I watched it all the way through, but a lot of people say the first part, which is called Phantom Blood, is really slow to start. So if you're having trouble getting into it from that alone, people seem to recommend that you skip parts to like part, I think it's just Stardust Crusaders. And if that doesn't float your boat, then... you know, it is what it is. But people really, really don't like part skipping. But I mean, if you can't get through the first...
God, they're already angry.
Yeah, exactly. I watched it in full. I didn't skip any parts. But if you can't get into it, it does heat up in the middle and end. So
I'm semi-populist, man. I got to get those votes. I got to not skip, or Twitch Twitch chat will kill me. Mob rule, man. I'm instituting mob rule.
All right, and that's that. See you later, everybody. I will be back to stream for a little bit, and then I'm going to cut it there. But everybody say goodbye to Dylan. It was a great time.
See you guys later, man. Solidarity.
Hey, it's me, the guy, streaming Conure once again. I just wanted to let you guys know that we are roughly 150 subs away from 1,000. When we get there, I'll be doing a prepared Q&A video, answering literally whatever questions you want me to. Follow my Twitter at ConureCC for updates. Thanks so much for watching this segment from episode 3 of the Conure Report. This episode's Conure call-out is Pope Jupiter. Appreciate the support. Hope you enjoyed the tier 1 sub to my Twitch channel. If you'd like to be the next Conure call-out, follow my Twitter at ConureCC and retweet my video links when they go live. To the right of me is the link to subscribe to the channel, and to the right of that is even more content for you to consume. Love y'all very much. I think that was the one.